What's your most prized possession? Mine? Okay. Hello and good morning from a chilly and foggy Hertfordshire. That right there is the Defender 110, and it's the sort of design that's had to grow on me. It's a far cry from the design icon that it once was, that we knew and loved from decades ago. But like any design, the more you see it, the more you get used to it, the more it starts getting under your skin. Cars like the Defender, the G-Wagon, new or old, and cars alike are cars that I hold dear to my heart. In this video, I'm going to explain why. Let's go. Once we were all ready and packed, we put all the bags into the boot of the Defender, child seat fitting nice and easily, and a little after 8 AM, we headed off. The car that we're driving today is the Defender 110, and it's Stratstone Land Rover Mayfair's Defender 110. So if you're interested in this car or any others in their lineup, I'll leave their details in the description down below. One of the main things that I absolutely love about Land Rover Defender is that by today's standards, there's just a mechanical / analog feel to it. And I know that's not the case. I know it's got air suspension and it's got water wading sensors and it's got cameras all around. I get that, but it just has a very rugged and industrious feel to it. Take the interior, for example. It appears to have been built for a specific purpose. There are exposed bolts and grab handles. It feels quite minimal, but has all the essentials in large block buttons. Yet the refinement and comfort levels are ones you would expect in a Discovery. And just like the Disco, this has 7 seats thanks to the family pack. This is Gabby's car, should we say. Look, big, bulky, physical buttons. Same vibes. The balance of comfort, refinement and convenience are things that are somewhat difficult to let go of when it's a car that you rely on to do your day-to-day stuff. Except that it's not to a level that if you were to scuff something, scratch something, dent something in here, you probably wouldn't feel as bad as you would if it was a Range Rover Sport, for example. Like, it doesn't have hand-stitched quilted leather or fancy carbon fiber or brushed aluminium trims in here. It's just plastic, designed for wear and tear, which makes it a little bit more fit for purpose. In this, you're almost encouraged to leave some marks on it, like little timestamps of memories, as opposed to like the fancy shiny stuff, which I'm not a fan of because you're almost afraid to even leave a fingerprint on it, but not in here. Other than the nameplate and some of the design cues, there is very little tying the new Defender to the old. This is comfortable, hugely practical, warm, supple, relatively easy to drive if we just put the size of it to one side. Yet it's still rough and rugged. Perfect for a family trip up to Norfolk, which is where I'll be taking my family on this trip. As we left London and headed up the M11 and onto the country roads, the Defender was in its element. Effortlessly consumed the miles and returned an impressive 34 miles to the gallon. The family enjoyed the drive too. This demonstrator is the D300X Dynamic HSE, which has a 3-litre diesel engine, long-lived diesel. It produces 300 brake horsepower and 650 Newton meters of torque. It also has a very mild hybrid system, but it's not to be confused with a plug-in hybrid system that you might be familiar with. It cannot be driven on electric alone, nor can you plug it in. So what's it good for? Think of it as the latest version of that really sophisticated start-stop feature that we all know and love in our cars, where we stop at a set of traffic lights or in traffic and then the engine cuts out, like it's done now. When you're slowing down, you've got your foot on the brake and you fall below 10 miles an hour, the engine cuts out. Once you lift your foot back off the brake, the engine will re-engage. The mild hybrid system just does that more efficiently. This particular Defender is equipped with the optional air suspension, and in my opinion it is simply a must-have. It's always nice to have that little bit more control and a softer ride, especially when you're driving on rough, rugged, broken roads such as our UK ones. This one also has the electronically deployable tow bar, the body coloured spare wheel cover, extended black exterior pack, and the leather steering wheel, which is also heated. It also comes with the Meridian sound system, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, 3D surround camera, lane keeping assist, blind spot assist, adaptive cruise control, 20-inch wheels, heated and ventilated seats, cabin lighting, keyless entry and LED headlights over and above the standard equipment. £85,000 worth of Defender, which is cheaper than the Mercedes counterpart, but likely to be more than the Land Cruiser from Toyota. After 2.5 hours and 150 miles later, we arrived at the hotel where we'd be spending the next few nights. Once again, thank you to Land Rover and Mayfair for loaning us this Defender on this trip. And if you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. If it was my money and money was no object, I would have probably ticked a few more options, such as the Explorer pack, which I believe consists of the roof rack, the little side box that you get on the right hand side. I just think it suits this car to a T. So if you are someone that, you know, goes camping and stuff, that extra bit of storage could prove to be very useful. I'd also have the Matrix LED headlights over the standard LED headlights, and maybe the comfort and convenience package, because in here you get the refrigerated compartment, which at the moment I don't, and I just have lots of sweets and juice in there. Don't judge me. By the way, I don't know if this is a thing or whether I've just came across it, but when this opens you can fold it all the way back and it acts as a tray. How clever is that? The only thing I will say that perhaps Land Rover haven't quite got right is they've put a domestic plug socket as part of an off-road pack, which is £1,170. Now, I don't necessarily need the off-road pack, but I would find the plug to be quite useful if you wanted to do a little bit of work on your laptop in the car, for example, or you took it camping and you wanted to power a heater, for example. You could do that. I mean, you could still work in here for as long as your laptop had power, I guess. Now, if like me, you spend a lot of time in your car, commuting up and down the country, going to and from jobs, lugging around equipment, in my case the photography equipment, or spend your time parked on the M25, as I mentioned in the Porsche Cayenne video that I done, cars like this, SUVs like this, are for me the perfect tool for the job in hand. Driving position's great, visibility is amazing all around the car, you can see the traffic 3 miles ahead of you. And I think the point that I'm trying to make is that even when you're not driving, it's still a lovely place to be. Like, you can work in here, you can have a nap if you needed to, you can just sit, play games. It's like an office away from the office, if you like. Now, allow me to put a little asterisk on that, because having said all that, the Defender is a large car. And the funny thing is, it's not even the biggest, because obviously they do a Defender 130, which is even longer. But even the 110, it's a big old unit. I haven't compared it to the dimensions of the full fat Range Rover, but it looks just as big, if not bigger. You can't really be throwing this around, you know, when you're driving it, you have to imagine like you're driving a small bus or a van. What I mean is, it's not necessarily a fun or engaging drive, so if that's what you're after, then something like a Range Rover Sport would probably do the job better. This is more like an armchair that you drive. So if you just like being comfortable, being wafted along, but at the same time do all the messy stuff, throw your dogs in the boot, kids in the back, get it muddy, go off-road, then the Defender is the one for you. 0 to 62 mile an hour comes up in 6.6 seconds, which is hugely respectable, but it's not sporty. So let's not judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, etc, etc. Once the Defender gets going, you feel the power a little bit more than you do in the low end. It does feel a little bit sluggish when you're lifting off, but once you get the unit moving, the power is okay. Although I will say, I personally would be happy to forego 10-15% of frugality in exchange for an extra 10-20% more power, because if you are going to have 5-7 people in here plus a few bags, it might feel a little bit underpowered. What I don't want to do in this video is pay it too many comparisons to the Defender of yesteryear, because historically those Defenders were more agricultural cars, so today's example really can't be in the same conversation as the old Defender. It's way too luxurious, it's too refined. But the beauty of these cars of today, Land Rover give you a whole array of options to choose from. So if you wanted something to be a workhorse, a bit more industrious and a bit more agricultural, you can buy a Defender, which is pretty much a van. Or you could go completely to the other side of the spectrum and you can make it as luxurious as a Range Rover almost. We're talking heads-up displays, air suspension, leather seats, refrigerated compartments, keyless entry, trick headlights, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and a whole array of optional equipment that you can tick on the configurator. So I think Land Rover have done that really very well. Perhaps you can't get it as refined, as supple, as smooth, as comfortable as the full-fat Range Rover, but you could get it to a very industrious Discovery, let's say. I'm not a professional in areas such as the gearbox and how it's mated to the engine and how that works with the locking differentials and how the car detects what sort of terrain you're driving on. That's not my strong suit, nor do I particularly enjoy talking about that stuff, because the reality is that most of us, if not all of us, we're not gonna utilize that stuff day to day, or it's gonna be less important. However, the areas which I think I can help you is talk to you a little bit about the good and the bad about the car, things that I think you're gonna want to know if you're thinking about buying one. Let's start with the positives. This tray feature, brilliant, love it. Second thing, the power options that you have just here underneath this control unit here. You've got Type-C connection port, you've got the old USB connection, and you also have a 12-volt socket. They've got one here, so if you wanted to charge something up here, you've got two, I believe, just in the back here, and then you've got a further two right at the back for passenger number 6 and 7, this being the 7-seater. This interior as a whole, for me, it's awesome. You've got a touchscreen, which is nice and large. I've got wireless Apple CarPlay working away here in the background. The menu system's fine, it works okay, but more importantly, it's this control unit down here. Here are the essentials. So I've got my engine start stop, I've got my volume. If I just want to switch the system off, turn it down, turn it up, I can do that. I've got my air conditioning unit buttons, nice and large. You can press them to heat or ventilate your seats. You can adjust the temperature, adjust this fan speed, and then you've got different driving modes. So you just click on this button and then you turn the wheel and then you pick your program, and then you can adjust the air suspension to go low or higher. It's all here. It's all stuff that you're probably gonna utilize the most out of anything else. And I love the fact that they're not, you know, touch sensitive. They're not this glossy black piano finish. It's just nice, tactile, large, blocky buttons that work. Even like grab handles, like here, got one here, got here. The rear passengers got grab handles, so if you did take it off-road, it's just nice being able to hold on to something like that. Something else worth mentioning is the rear view mirror. Now this one's got the built-in camera feed from the rear of the car. Now at first it seems like a bit of a gimmick, but actually if you imagine a full house in here, it can be very difficult to navigate past their heads and see what's going on at the back, or in the case of us, a boot full of stuff which blocks out the view that I have from the back of the car. But when you have the camera, you don't have that problem. And the other added benefit is that if you're driving along at night and someone behind you has forgotten their full beams on, for example, the feed from the camera won't hurt your eyes. A few of the negatives. Okay, so it's a bit of a curse and a blessing is the sheer size of the Defender. What I would say is just make sure you're at least a confident driver if you're thinking about buying a Defender, because, you know, when you drive into car parks or your M&S, your Tesco's, whatever, your petrol garages, you know, it's a bit tricky to place the car, and especially on tight single track roads, it can become bit cumbersome. I personally don't mind it because it's just something that comes with having a big SUV, but yeah, just be mindful, it's not going to be for everyone. The boot does open like a door as opposed to a boot lid, so it doesn't open upwards, it opens sideways. So if you've parallel parked somewhere, or if you reverse into a parking space, be mindful that if someone drives right up to your bumper, or you've driven right up to a wall, for example, that you won't be able to access the boot.
Under the new EU general safety rules, manufacturers are able to choose how their systems notify drivers of a speed limit breach. Like most modern cars, they have visual and audible sounds that play, and the Defender is no exception. By default, the car always starts with the system set to high, but you can very easily set a custom mode. So I switched the audio feedback off and kept the visual on, and the good thing is it's only 2 clicks away when you get in.
That's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot I would change in terms of dislikes. There really isn't many. So I guess it shouldn't come as much of a surprise as to why the Defender is my favourite utilitarian. So why do I hold cars like this so dear to my heart?
I have a passion for travelling. I love exploring, and I have a genuine excitement for discovering new places. There's something magical about the experience of travel, the ability to pack up all your essentials from cameras to books, tents to laptops, and simply venture out into the world. Whilst any vehicle, whether it's a modern or a classic, can cover distances, there's a unique allure to embarking on these journeys in a Land Rover Defender. Its rugged capability instills a sense of confidence, knowing that it can tackle any terrain with ease. The Defender isn't just a mode of transportation, it's a trusted companion, offering practical and comfort even in the most challenging conditions. Whether you want to spend the night under the stars or navigate through a snow-covered landscape, the Defender proves its worth time and time again. So, in answer to the question, what's my most prized possession?
The memories.
And when it comes to creating these lasting memories, there's no better tool than the Land Rover Defender.